Never has the collapse of a family unit been described with such dark humour and humanity than in our next book. It's the story of the Barnes family in the Irish Midlands after the crash. There's a father in meltdown, a disillusioned wife, a wayward student and a lost young boy. The Eason novel of the year is The Bee Sting by Paul Murray.
There's a famous John Lennon line, life is what happens while you're making other plans, and I feel that goes double for books. So yeah, I had another book entirely that I was planning to write, and when I came to write it, I realised I didn't want to do it. But a couple of the characters from it were really interested me and intrigued me, and that was their story was the one I realised that I needed to write. Behind you, Nev calls. PJ spins around just in time to see a rifle pointed right at him. A shadowed figure fix him in his sights. Incoming! He hurls himself into a hollow as the grenade comes down, rolls with the blast, crashes against a tree trunk, hauls himself to his feet and runs without looking back into the trees, the light. Wait a second, PJ says, coming to a stop. Are you throwing those at me? It was a sniper, Nev calls back, because you're so slow. Snipers don't throw grenades, PJ says, but Nev has disappeared into the trees ahead. So I wrote the book longhand, so that's the original manuscript there. It was going to be initially about an entirely different character called Joe, and the book was going to be called Joe Nothing. But Cass's story doesn't appear until page 17. That's when the book really changed into like the book that it became. It's when you're writing your first draft, which I'm doing longhand, it's like when you fall in love and it's so exciting and you get swept up in it and it kind of carries you away and you get all these ideas and it's really just a wonderful process. And then like when you come back to that first draft, it's like a marriage, you know, where you just have to work at it and you have to be, you know, you have to kind of step back and you have to take a few deep breaths sometimes and you have to think about it and then it all hopefully comes together. As you can see here, I don't know if you can see it, but my handwriting is it's really bad. It's like sort of like a doctor's kind of prescription handwriting. If I see my handwriting on a page, unless I really sort of scrutinize it, I'm not able to read it. That means that I don't get sucked into editing it and changing it until I go back to the manuscript and I'm typing it up. One of the downsides of writing by hand is that you can lose your manuscript. It would be like a real catastrophe because there's really no way that I could remember everything that happened. The title of the book was the last thing that I came up with. There's so much going on in the book. There's so many different themes, like from internet porn to the rise of the far right, to climate change, to the car business in Ireland in the 2010s. It was hard to find something that would kind of gather all those together. Everybody can relate to a bee sting. You know, if you ever get a bee sting, you're not going to forget it. So it's short, it's immediate, it's pithy. There's a sort of sadness when you send off your file to the editor, when you send your book off to the editor, and it's like, you know, 1 megabyte, you know, and that's like, oh, that's like a year's work, and it's just this tiny, like, you know, insignificant file. Whereas, if you write like a manuscript then, and you drop it on your foot, then it hurts. I don't romanticize the writing process. It's really just about showing up at your desk every day. Joseph Brodsky had this line, if you're not at the bus stop, you won't get the bus.
Now, Paul wasn't able to be with us here tonight, but I was lucky enough to catch up with him earlier on for a chat. Paul Murray, anyone who's read The Bee Sting, they say it's warm, it's funny, it's completely true, it feels like, and it also feels completely sad. Why do you think people are so moved by your story?
Well, it's a story about a family that's not doing so well. I guess everybody's got a family, and families can be difficult spaces to inhabit, and everybody can relate to trying to negotiate with their crazy family.
Now, I really appreciate the comedy in this. Even when terrible things are happening, you've got gags kind of just appearing left, right and centre, and I'm sure in a second reading there's more probably hidden jokes here and there. How important is that sense of dark humour throughout this?
I think that's the way that Irish people deal with things generally. Like if when things are at their worst, you know, you tend to kind of come up with a joke to try and, you know, just like let the light in just a little bit. And if you've got something in there that can make you laugh, that sort of, you know, it gives you sort of hope that it's still worth continuing with.
You've had success before, Paul, but the level with The Bee Sting, it's a whole new plane for you, isn't it? Are you thinking of the follow-up? Is there going to be stress on that? Have you got a story ready to go?
I absolutely do not have any stories ready to go. I mean, the way I tend to work is that when I'm immersed in a project that I'm excited about, any ideas I have just go into that. They find their way into that book. And the downside of that is that when I'm finished, there's nothing in the tank, and I need I need a little while to kind of for that to fill up again.
Putting the Barnes aside, how about your own family? How have they been on this whole roller coaster you've been having?
Yeah, they're really excited. It's been. You never know how a book's going to go, and I was working on this book for 5 years, and I just didn't know what the reception would be. It's a big, long book, and that's a hard sell these days. So it's just been, the response has been really wonderful and surprising.
Paul Murray, thank you so much, and the very best of luck.
Thanks, Oliver.